We're back on Get Up, and if you were just joining us, it was the best of times and worst of times for Cam Newton in his return last night. Again, this is our top story today. Newton, his first action of the preseason after offseason shoulder surgery, takes a hit here on the very first series from Kyle Van Noy, and then he gets going, and he looked pretty good, RC.
Cam Newton did look good. First game back from the shoulder injury, he was rolling early.
And here's the guy you know he's going to be throwing to a lot this year, Christian McCaffrey, doing what he does best.
Listen, if I played fantasy football, this guy would be my first pick. He's huge in receiving game, also rushing the football.
But the trouble could be if he loses his quarterback. And that's where the bad news comes. We showed it to you off the top of the show. Here it is, Cam Newton struggling or scrambling, and then down he goes. As we take another look at it, you'll see he appears to plant a little funny on the left foot. Nothing that looks terrible.
No, this is the Cam we love to see, but we hate to see him hobble off the field after this tackle.
Yeah, he gets up and you can tell it's bothering them. And over on the sideline, you see the pain on his face. He would ultimately leave the stadium, and we'll show it to you here, in a walking boot. This obviously is the last thing in the world you want to see. And I'll repeat, this was his first action of the preseason coming off offseason shoulder surgery. He'd finished the game 4 of 6, 30 yards. That's not the storyline here. Cam Newton injured in his preseason debut.
I mean, this is one of those things that, everybody was geared up for this one, and again, it was an opportunity to get out and play. And, it can happen on game one in the regular season. So to sit here and say that, well, if you don't play these games, then you play on day one, he gets hurt in day one, then what do you do? That's the hard part. That's the unfortunate part.
Here's another unfortunate sideline here. Cam Newton doesn't generally miss a lot of time, but if he's hurt, they have a problem. Very little experience on their depth chart at quarterback. Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke, each with one career NFL start, and Will Grier is a rookie they took in the third round. So I'll bring it quickly back out here. Jeff Darlington, what have you heard about the injury?
Good news, bad news. The x-rays, I'm told, did come back negative. That's the good news, no broken bones. Bad news, we're talking about an ankle sprain. If that's a high ankle sprain, Ryan, that's not necessarily an easy thing to come back from very quickly.
No, absolutely. And when you have a guy that moves around in the pocket like Cam Newton, that uses his legs in that manner, high ankle sprain could keep him from being the quarterback that makes him the best possible player for the Carolina Panthers. So you're extremely concerned if you're Ron Rivera and that Carolina Panthers
and look,
team.
Here's the thing. It's a preseason game, and we're seeing him darting around back there and trying to make plays. That's what makes Cam Newton great. It's what made him the MVP. But in a preseason game, when that pocket breaks down, should he just be hitting the ground?
No, listen, you can't tell guys to stop being who they are. That's what's got him here. That's who he is, and that's going to be innate in him once the pocket collapses. So if you don't want him to do those things, let him stand by you in the hat and listen to the little earphone like we see Eli do for most of the preseason.
We have all eyes and ears on Carolina, and as soon as there's an update on that injury, we will let you know. That's our top story. Here's another big one. It involves Ezekiel Elliott. The holdout continues in Dallas, but our Ed Werder reporting yesterday that the Cowboys' latest offer to Zeke would make him one of the 2 highest paid running backs in the NFL. That would, if you just look at where they stand, mean more than Le'Veon Bell, who gets paid $13.5 million a year, less than Todd Gurley, who makes $14.4 million a year. Aside from Gurley and Bell, David Johnson is the only other running back who has at least $10 million a year on his current contract. And looking back in history, the most money ever given to a running back was $14.4 to Adrian Peterson in the deal he signed in 2011. So what can you tell us, Jeff Darlington, on the insight here into the offer to Zeke Elliott?
Well, I can tell you that if he does take this deal, it is a win for Ezekiel Elliott and his camp. And he knows this because when he went into this holdout, he was going into something when everybody said, he's not going to get paid until next year at the very earliest. If he gets that contract this year, that's a pay bump that escalates beyond that, and it gets him to his third contract a year earlier as well. That, for a running back, is a very big deal.
That will be huge for Ezekiel Elliott. It's just going to be hard to see him take less money than Todd Gurley. It seems like that's always been the sticking point for him. I think this is a great deal. I agree with you. You're a year earlier than you should be negotiating this contract. And to make the move to sit out now was huge. It's a win if you get a contract that puts you as the number 2 overall running back
It should be pointed out that in Ed Werder's reporting, it's not clear when this offer was made. So it's possible they've been sitting with this for some period of time and have not made a decision. I also just got a note, for whatever this is worth, that Marshall Faulk, the Hall of Fame running back, has gone down to Cabo to work out with Zeke Elliott. I know that's one of the things that we've expressed some concern about, is what kind of shape will Zeke be in if and when he does sign. What do you make of Marshall Faulk going down?
Well, for me, I think it's more about PR and the perception than anything. I don't know what type of trainer Marshall Faulk is or what type of training he did. I just knew he was great at football from Carver High School in New Orleans, and he was like the mushiest running back I'd ever seen. So I'm not necessarily sure what his training regimen would be, but he can definitely teach him different things about ball and understanding being a running back. But from a perception standpoint, it says I'm in Cabo, but I'm doing everything possible to be ready when the season starts.
And to sort of put a ribbon on the conversation from here, you were on our show yesterday. You were definitive about it, and I was listening to you on the Will Cain radio show yesterday, coming back and doubling down. You stand by this. He will be there week one.
I believe that he will be there week one. I mean, this has been the plan all along, that he will get there by week one with a very formidable deal. It sounds like
the plan from Ezekiel Elliott's camp. You're saying
Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah.
I always thought he'd be there week one with a contract or not, because it's just so hard to miss games and miss money.
A lot of money
when
on
you
the
play
line
that position.
I will just say this again. I love watching him play, and I'm not in any way disparaging him, but just look at his contractual situation. He is a man with zero leverage.
Zero.
If they are offering to pay him more money than Le'Veon Bell got, and he leaves that on the table, it is an incalculable mistake. They don't have to do anything with him, not only for one more year, but for two. Well, let me show you another rookie quarterback on the field last night, and that would be Dwayne Haskins. We'll get to him after we show you Case Keenum, because he is the starter right now for Washington, at least until Colt McCoy comes back. And there's Keenum getting hit early there, an early mistake by Keenum as they play the Falcons. But he would bounce back and show you a couple of nice moments here, including a strike we'll show you here to Cam Sims across the middle.
Listen, this was a good throw right in the seam. It was on time. He showed the veteran maturity of coming back from a negative play early on in the game.
He was 9 of 14, 101 yards, and lost that fumble. Then on comes the rookie, and listen, I'm an unabashed
Greeny,
fan.
this is your guy.
He's my guy. I'm an unabashed fan. And that doesn't mean that he has to be the starter week one. You don't draft a guy to be your starter week one. You draft him to ultimately be a great quarterback, and he showed you some nice things on this drive.
This is what you knew about Dwayne Haskins. He has arm talent, and he's a guy that can make all the throws, and we got to see that on display last night.
Yeah, he would throw a couple of balls up or towards the end zone here that you'll see neither one of them complete, but tell me what you see on these throws.
What I see is him staying in the pocket, knowing he's getting the blitz from the backside, and giving his wide receivers an opportunity to make plays one-on-one, and that's what an NFL caliber starting quarterback does for his team.
He was 7 of 13 last night, 74 passing yards, and Redskins win 19-7, which doesn't matter. It appears Case Keenum is on track to be the starter for the opener against the Eagles. Neither he nor Haskins have really jumped off the screen in the preseason. Each has thrown for a touchdown. Both are completing just over 50% of their passes, but I read those numbers very differently. You expect much more of a grizzled vet in Case Keenum in the preseason than you do in a kid in Dwayne Haskins coming in. But he's a guy who played one season of college football. But his learning curve should be extremely quick.
You don't expect more from Case Keenum because you know what Case Keenum is. Yeah. You know what that ceiling is, right? What he did in Minnesota, that was the anomaly. That's not who Case Keenum is going to be year to year. The guy that you saw in L.A., the guy that you saw in Denver, that's who he is. So you're going to see this type of play for him. So it's on Jay Gruden and that organization to say, you know what? We'll stick with the guy who we know his floor is not as low, or go with the guy with the great arm talent who is going to be your quarterback of the future.
Jeff, what can you tell us about the plan for Haskins in Washington?
The question internally when I have these conversations with people with the Redskins is not about his arm strength. It's about his ability to take over the entire offense. At this point, he is not there. That's why I don't think we're going to see Haskins very soon.
Right there, Jeff. The ball was there. The hands weren't.
The talent is there in terms of arm strength. 100%. I think everybody in that building believes it. They want to see him have a better grasp of the offense come the regular season.
So are you saying you would like to see him start week one?
No, I want to see Daniel Jones start. I don't necessarily want to see Dwayne Haskins because I believe they've shown different things. I believe that Dwayne Haskins will be more prone to make mistakes than Case Keenum will at this point. But I believe Daniel Jones can have an opportunity to go out and make some other plays.
One point here, I believe the Redskins would like to see Colt McCoy be healthy enough to take this job. That is the guy that they visualize as a starter for the team this year.
And listen, I played with Colt. I was a teammate of his in my last year in Washington. He's a great guy. But he's not the guy that's going to lead your franchise from the quarterback position to wins. And so I believe this organization more than any is the one that needs to be figuring out a way to get their rookie quarterback ready to play. You
also look at McCoy's history of injury, and you don't look at it and assume he's going to be healthy for 16 games either. I'd love to continue this, but I insist we talk about golf.